Israel was constructed on the ruins of another society and by the mass dispossession of another people who remain unacknowledged as just sort of obscure natives in the background, back to the desert, let them go to one of the other Arab countries. That's been the position. And we bear no... The Oslo Accords say specifically that Israel bears no responsibility for the costs of the occupation. This after 20 years, 26 years of military occupation, no responsibility. As an Israeli journalist said, he said, we took over the country in 1948 from the British. The British left us the port of Haifa, a road system, an electrical system, a large number of municipal buildings, and lots of prisons. And we could build Israel. Without that, there would be no state today. If we had taken Palestine in 1948 the way we left Gaza for the Palestinians, there would be no Israel. We destroyed the economy. We deported most of the capable people. We forced the people to live in hovels and refugee camps over a period. I mean, if anybody's been to Gaza, it's one of the most criminal places on earth because of Israeli policy of occupation. And they bear no responsibility for it. I mean, that's simply unacceptable, even for the Jewish people who have suffered so much. It's unacceptable. You cannot continue to victimize somebody else just because you yourself were a victim once. There has to be a limit.
Seeing will manifest itself in real time in a very rapid change, especially in the state of Israel. But this is what happens when we allow evil to manifest, even in more grotesque forms. And when you allow for a nation, a psychopathic nation, to actually get away with mass murder, mass incarceration, forced expulsion, the next step is, what else can we get away with? What else can we get away with saying or doing? And when you have the silence of the Western world, you allow evil to manifest. William Burke once said, in order for evil to exist, you need good men to do nothing. It was Edmund Burke, by the way. But that's exactly what's happening here. We have a nation, the Israeli government, who are creating generations of racists and nationalists and religious fundamentalists all into one, creating this really backward, quasi-ludicrous atmosphere where even the violence doesn't make sense. During the incursion of Gaza in 2000, I think it's 6 or 2008, the Goldstone report would detail that the Israeli military had expended 40% of its weaponry into Gaza City. And we're talking about like bullets and missiles, chemical weapons, just a complete overkill. And I hear people saying, well, if they were committing genocide, well, they're doing a bad job. Well, they can't just come right out and kill everybody, because somebody's going to basically step up and say, hey, wait, you got to stop that. So they got to make it seem like, all right, we're scaling back. Meanwhile, they're still killing people, tens of thousands. I believe now it's up to 17,500 children killed. And to the Israeli government, to the United States government, to Great Britain, to Australia, Canada, and you wonder why there are extremists on the other end who are going to basically conduct terrorist acts. And then you have a general public, which is completely ignorant of geopolitics, will basically have the universal default position of asking, why did this happen? If they actually knew what was happening in their name abroad, we would be tens of thousands in the streets, maybe even hundreds of thousands. So we're either going to basically go down this path of self-destruction, or we can basically turn it around and get everybody out of the federal government, that is supporting this monstrosity. But as long as you keep voting for these people, nothing's ever going to change. And what will end up happening is you'll get far worse in office. Worse than Tom Cotton or Lindsey Graham or Joe Biden and the rest of those ilk. John Fetterman and, these idiots. We're going to have people like Ben Gvir, the leader of the Kahanist-led Yotzmit Yehud party. And this man lacks any empathy. I'm going to play this video. He's talking about political prisoners. And we're not talking about terrorists here. Political prisoners who are actually not in line with the nationalist view of Israel. And this is what he had to say. Listen.
השר לשעבר, חבר הכנסת פורר, תקרא את ההצעה. ההצעה לא מדברת על אסירים ביטחוניים, אני החרקתי אותם. זה אגב היה הוויכוח עם הייעוץ המשפטי. הם רצו לא להחריג, ואני אמרתי אין דבר כזה. בשחרור מנהלי לא משתחרר אפילו לא אחד שרק דיבר בצורה לאומנית, וברוך השם שעמדתי התקבלה. במהלך תקופת, אתם,
חבר הכנסת פורר, די.
בממשלה שלכם עשו הקלות לביטחונים. אצלי, כמו שאומרים, בכלא קציעות, עד המג'דון, ואני גאה בכך שאנחנו בתקופתי שינינו את כל התנאים. נתתם להם בשר כבש, נגמר. נתתם להם הפקדות בקנטינות, נגמר. נתתם להם 8 שעות.
חבר הכנסת עודד פורר, די.
8 שעות סיורים בחצר, נגמר. נתתם להם מעמד דובר, היה דובר, אדוני היושב ראש. זה פשוט מדהים. מי שרצח הכי הרבה יהודים קיבל מעמד שנקרא דובר, הוא היה מנהל הכלא. באתי למשמרת שלי, נגמר. תלמדו איך לעבוד, אבל זה בסדר, ייקח לכם קצת זמן.
That's what's coming here. Because what's going to end up happening is you're going to have a radical fundamentalist group like this inside the United States, and they're already here. And when you allow for evil to manifest, you allow for the grotesque nature, the essence of it, to become much more pronounced and obvious. And as long as you keep looking away, the more it will grow. And it won't end there. We already have conservatives who think that the Democrats are the reason why the country has fallen, and that we need a new government, we need a new world, and we need it under one banner, one guy, under God, and whatever, right? But that's not going to be all, because what will end up happening is you'll have the worst aspects of left politics and right politics infused in one. Totalitarianism, authoritarianism, extremist religious identity, all the worst into one entity that will basically see outsiders or anybody outside of thinking as the enemy. And when you're illiterate and when you're sick and desperate, you will make amoral decisions, whether you even realize it or not. And you'll basically react on impulse instead of thinking. And that's where people who use their emotions to dictate certain aspects of their lives, that's usually the wrong choice, because you're not thinking about it. And that's what's happening in Israel. I never would have thought that the lineage of the late Rabbi Meir Kahane, who was an evil piece of garbage, would exist and become a power in the Knesset. And, Rabbi Meir Kahane basically was considered persona non grata in the Knesset. They hated him. And over the years after his death by El Said Nosser, the first terrorist attack in U.S. history by a religious Arab fundamentalist, now Kahana is celebrated because we allowed for the evil to manifest. And if we don't fight back, this is going to be our future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care.